So my name is Emily Berry. I trained to teach with Teach First 4 years ago. I'm a teacher of English. So I've always been interested in my subject, in particular with English, and I knew that I wanted a career kind of getting that passion to students. So as soon as I finished university and my masters, I decided that I wanted to train to teach so that I could kind of focus more on my subject. But then as I got into training, I realised that I actually enjoy the kind of day-to-day interactions with students, and over the course of that I've become more interested in the learning process. So we decided as a school that we would all take part in it together as this kind of collaborative environment of teaching and learning. So last year we weren't on roll to do the certificate. We had something quite similar where we were doing research, but I think they wanted to take it in this direction. So there was that element that we were progressing towards something at the same time. We had this kind of shared language that we were using, and that's been really beneficial, the kind of week to week. So since we've started with the first unit and the introduction, it's nice having that time in the week where we'll be looking at schema building, and you'll know everybody in the school that's a teaching member will be looking at schema and will be using that language. So I think it's part of the school's vision to get us to understand cognitive science and have that shared language which we're really passionate about, and I think that's been the driving force in why as a school we've all got involved in this certificate itself. What I enjoy the most is that kind of weekly interaction with the team. So on a Tuesday and a Wednesday we'll have our morning CPD, and compared to previous CPDs at other schools, this feels more focused on something that I can take practically to my lessons that day. So in terms of Unit 1, we were looking at evidence-informed practice, and I was kind of covering things that I slightly remember from Teach First and my training year, but I kind of needed that refresh on it. So that was really beneficial because I feel like going into writing and researching, it's important that I have that knowledge. And then in terms of going into Unit 2, I've found that's the more practical things that I can bring to my lessons that day. So I think what I've enjoyed the most is having those discussions in the morning and then thinking, for example, about my questioning and how that could link to peer motivation. And then I'll go to my first lesson and I can apply that straight away because I've had those morning discussions. So I think the week by week kind of change in focus has been really beneficial for me and my practical application of it. I think the biggest impact that it's had is my confidence with the language of cognitive science. So I know as a school we're really pushing on explaining the why to the students themselves so that they can understand the learning process. So that was something that we started with retrieval practice, talking about our question 5 in our morning recall, and recall 6 will always be a metacognition question. And I think last year I did have an awareness of this through becoming a teacher and training to teach, but as I've been studying and researching, I actually have more confidence in using that language with the students. So I can say to them about schema and the forgetting curve, and I actually truly understand it myself, and that will enable them to understand it better as well, which will then later in turn make them more self-regulate with their own learning. So I think that's had the biggest impact on me. So at the minute, I'm quite interested in looking more into feedback and my delivery of feedback, because I think with our policy of whole class feedback, there is sometimes an uncertainty on how impactful that can be. So for the unit that I'm looking at the minute, I'm going to really think about cognitive science and feedback and how that can work together in order to have the most impact on my students. I think it's quite easy to have CPD running at a school, and it can just be something that you'll go to, and it could be on questioning one week, relationships the other week, and it doesn't have that practical application, and also it doesn't always have the most up-to-date and relevant research behind it. I think just that element that we're all working together on something has been great for our staff team. We always have something like research sessions, or we'll have those morning CPDs, or we'll have an inset day. We're all kind of like typing and working together, and it's just been really nice as a school, and as every single teacher is all working on the same thing and can have those discussions. I would recommend this certificate to friends and colleagues. I think it really brings you with that shared vision, the shared language, and I think you can have the practical applications into your lesson and knowing it's from a reliable source.